This one game reignited my love for gaming, and no, it wasn't the kind that I ever expected to like JRPGs. And I used to think that JRPGs were slow, confusing, and not really for me. Then Claire Expedition 33 comes out, completely throws that off the rocker. I'm 27 years old, and as I'm getting older, it does have its challenges. Specifically with gaming, one of the challenges for me has been I find myself playing the same types of games over and over, never really exploring beyond my comfort zone, especially when it comes to JRPGs. After work, I would find myself mindlessly playing games like 2K or Pokemon TCG if you've seen my YouTube channel. And that's all I would really ever upload or play. These easier to pick up and put down type of games, no commitment. I've seen people talk about these types of games with all their complex systems and stories and 50 plus hours involved in them. I just couldn't get myself to try them, or I would try them and never finish them. At least that is until I picked up Expedition 33. And this game has completely changed how I view an entire genre of gaming that I've really just been avoiding for years. So I want to give you a little story if it's of any interest to you, about how this has happened. Because since I started playing Expedition 33, the way I've been approaching games has completely evolved, removing from me all of those preconceived notions I've had about JRPGs and turn based combats and showing me what I've been missing out on for all of these years. And I've tried a couple of JRPGs. It's not to say I haven't in the past, but I think my the over reliance on complex systems and slow paced combat just wasn't something I could really gel with, especially now as I'm older and my work is a lot more taxing on me mentally. With games like Final Fantasy that really spring to mind over the years, I've always wanted to play and get into, but just couldn't find myself committing to it. Same thing with Persona 5. But honestly, I think the problem stems further than just JRPGs in general, but all games when I think about it, because I played games like Skyrim for the first time 3 years ago, which is insane to say. And I find myself just restarting the game and remodding the game on my computer instead of actually going into the story or fleshing out my character. And the same thing could have been said with Fallout 4, which are all games that I absolutely adore the world building and the games in general, but just never finish, could never commit to. And for years, though, JRPGs in particular have really started to feel a lot like homework, a daily chore that is one of the biggest problems for me is it never really felt like fun. And I think if anyone out there has kind of a similar situation to me is I work from home. And although I do have a dedicated gaming setup, although I have a Switch, and although I have a Steam Deck, I feel like with even all those things around me, I could not truly invest the time these games seem to demand. It just doesn't feel as accessible as it could be. And I know, I could do a lot of things to mitigate that, but it's a problem that has nagged at me for a long time as a gamer. My lack of completion of games. I don't know. Maybe it's just my ADHD like kicking in, but I hope that can relate to some other people as well. I just never been a game completionist. Like I think I beat Pokemon, I beat Fire Emblem, Three Houses. Um, that's really it. Like I've never even finished like a Call of Duty game like campaign. And JRPGs felt like they weren't made for someone like me. And I had this brief spell with a few of them in the past, like I mentioned, and I still have some of them that are in my gaming library that I bought and downloaded, but never got past like the opening scene. I felt like that was more of a flash in the pan type thing. After I was done forcing myself through a few hours, I kind of just stopped playing. They start collecting dust. And really, actually, I feel guilty for wasting money and just going back to mindlessly playing 2K or Pokemon or some other mobile game, right? And Clair Obscure Expedition 33 was one of those games that I actually knew nothing about when it released. I actually knew nothing about it. Funny enough, I actually just got done downloading Oblivion, the remake or the remaster. And after finding out that they just shadow dropped it, I was like, dude, I gotta download this, try this out on my computer. And I was playing it again, if you could guess, for the first few hours, and kind of was getting bored. And I just so happened to text one of my best friends, Brandon, and I was like, and by the way, he's like the opposite of me. He's really a true gaming connoisseur. Like this dude plays anything and everything. He's one of those people on the Xbox Game Pass that really be using it. And he told me, bro, you need to play Expedition 33. It's game of the year. Drop Oblivion and thank me later. And I took his advice. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of bored of this game anyway. So let me just try this. Who knows, right? I'll take his. I took his consideration, or I took his advice and his opinion into consideration. And what proceeded to happen has really changed my thoughts on playing JRPGs and gaming in general, right? I could not put the game down because for the next week and a half after work, I would start playing this game. I felt like I was a kid again, playing Pokemon Coliseum on the GameCube after school. Just everything that I breathed and did, like it was all so I can get to playing Expedition 33, right? And to be honest, I work from home and there were times when I would take a lunch break and say, I'm just going to play it for 30, 45 minutes and boom, before I know it, 3 hours has passed and I have to work late or I'm just behind for work on the next day. And with Expedition 33, I think the first thing that caught my attention was the story. I think about the concept of the paintress and how every year she paints a number on a monolith and everyone that age and older vanishes. I think about how that immediately just grabbed me in a way that no other JRPG story ever really has. I typically play games like I mentioned earlier, like Fire Emblem or more fantasy or dark fantasy type setting, medieval type setting. And with Expedition 33, it just completely threw me for a loop. This was not a game or game setting that I ever really got into or thought I would enjoy. And I think about how Expedition 33 is made up of these people who will be vanishing next year. When she paints the number 32, I think about this sense of urgency that made me want to keep playing and learning about these characters and knowing what's going to happen to these characters. I think about how different this has felt from the typical save the world stories that I've seen before. And really, like I said earlier, the hardware of my gaming setup hasn't changed. I still have the accessibility, I still have the Steam, I can play on my computer. But what has changed is my patience when I started playing Expedition 33. I discovered something surprising about it. The game like respects my time. It doesn't force you to grind for hours. It doesn't fill itself with pointless side quests. And the story moves at a consistent pace. And those 40 to 50 hours that I invested and that everyone talks about are filled with meaningful content, not just padding or fluff. Right? The actual gameplay is what really changed my perspective as well on JRPGs and gaming in general. I always thought that turn-based combat was slow, boring, but Expedition 33 completely revolutionized my thinking by adding those like real-time elements. The parrying, the dodging, the free aiming. It keeps you engaged even when it's not your turn. You can't just set the controller down. You have to be present. And that's something I've never expected from a turn-based combat system. It's part of the reason why I actually got bored of Pokemon and why I might even enjoy tactical RPG games like Fire Emblem more because they do feel a little bit more interactive than the party JRPGs. You know what I mean? Like the Dragon Quest. And being able to get into a JRPG and actually understand the systems without feeling overwhelmed was really, really liberating. And it changed how I play games that I've been avoiding or never played before. It's allowed me to complete or at least dive into a genre I always thought wasn't for me. I can put it down, I can come back, and there's no feeling of being lost or confusing about what I'm supposed to do next. I'm really playing the game for the story. I think of games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Triangle Strategy, and Metaphor Fantasia, which are all games that I have picked up after beating Expedition 33. All of these games I have been wanting to play for the longest time. And Triangle Strategy in particular has been on my Switch for 3 years, and I've never gotten past the first 5 hours of that game. And I think Expedition 33 is a testament to that. It has helped me build out a new love for JRPGs and gaming in general. These games that have been on my back burner, been on my backlog for years, I'm finally worked up the courage because of Expedition 33 to give them a shot and play them past the typical intro. It gives me hope for other game stories and what that investment of finishing a game would do for me. and playing with systems I've always thought were too complex, even just a few months ago. Like I think about Pictos and the Lumina that lets you customize your character with different abilities, creating these amazing synergies where your whole team works together in a way that feels satisfying instead of overwhelming. I've had these systems explained to me in other games, but this is the first time I actually enjoyed using them and wanted to try out new combinations. And now, like as I play these games that aren't maybe as UI friendly or isn't as easy to get to because of my experience with Expedition 33 and having that, it almost like it's like does two things. Like it's almost like, man, I wish it was like Expedition 33, but also I am more patient, more lenient with those games because I know what kind of story can be told if I just stick through it. And I think that's like a perspective that I didn't have before the game. The fact in Expedition 33 that you can experiment with different builds too is just incredible. Incredible to me for a JRPG to set you up perfectly to express yourself through those gameplay. And it helps that Obscure Expedition 33 is like very powerful and forgiving game when it comes to trying out new things. You can change things on the fly. And I'm not going to go into specifics as I think there's people out there who can do better deep dives into all the systems and mechanics. But in terms of the game's difficulty, it's just accessible, right? You can play at your own pace. You can find your own style, and the game supports whatever approach you want to take. I'm more of like a run and gun, finish the fights fast type of dude, and allowed me to do that. But you can go like super into detail and cook up like all these burn techniques or all these things and stack up all these buffs and stuff like that, just like you could on other JRPGs. And whenever I have free time now, when I was playing Expedition 33, I think about how I was trying to find new builds with different characters. I think about how I was like literally wanting to uncover more of the story and the world that was built there. And I can't even get into the incredible voice acting from people like Andy Serkis, who plays a major character. And I think about all these little secrets throughout the world, like the vertical jumping challenge that I found. That's basically, it's like a whole separate minigame. And I haven't even spoken about, by the way, the incredible soundtrack or the beautiful art style. There's just so much to appreciate. And I haven't felt like this addicted to gaming in a long time. It's like I'm a kid again, discovering a new gaming world for the first time. And one of the best things, though, is that you just work within you what you enjoy. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about min maxing or needing to follow a specific build. Like that used to be my thing that I think would take away my enjoyment from playing games, right? I would play a game and I'd be like, wow, what's the best way to go about this? How can I streamline this? It's always been something that I've done. But I started playing Clair Obscure Expedition 33 when the game first came out. It's like the first time I'm actually early to a game that's like hype. So there are no like tutorials. There are no guidebooks. There's not an optimal play route. I just had to figure it out myself. Like, cause trust me, I tried to look, but I think that's one of the things that I found while playing this is when I would play on my own and what I would do, and I would role play in myself and just think like, what would I do in this situation, or what's the choices I want to do instead of wanting to min max or get this best build or to do this or how is this character optimal. It completely changed the game for me, right? And what's awesome about Expedition 33 is it allows you to change your character builds pretty much any time. So you're never stuck with the choices that you made 20 hours ago. Another side, and I know I'm just like rambling on and on, but another thing about the game is it just doesn't overwhelm you with too many options at once. It gradually introduces new mechanics as you play through the game, right? There are no other distractions pulling you away from that core experience. It's purely about the story, the characters, and that addictive gameplay loop. And Expedition 33 just completely nails it purely as a gaming experience that it isn't trying to do everything in one package. It's just perfect to me. And I think that's what I needed. A sort of JRPG reset, gaming story reset, really stripped back, simplified, whatever you want to call it. I really needed that. And the timing of it was like perfect. With work just being overwhelming stress, I just wanted to get lost in a world. And it's crazy to think how differently I'm thinking about gaming again And I really say, hand on heart, Clare Obscure Expedition 33 has reignited my love for gaming and JRPGs, found a brand new love for JRPGs. And I started playing some of those games on my gaming library that are dusty, if you will. I ended up picking up classics like the Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth, and even wanting to try Final Fantasy 16 or some of these other games, Triangle Strategy, that I would not have done like 6 months ago, even a few months ago. I've never really thought I was going to be a JRPG player. And now I have to say I owe it all to Expedition 33. And, the journey we're on as gamers is really ever changing. And I wanted to share that if you have lost your love for gaming, it might be time to try something new and different. You break past the genres you usually stick to. I think as we get older, gaming and trying to find that perfect balance between gaming and being adults, we all have lives, work, kids. We have less and less time to do what we love. And then we revert to playing comfort games or just watching YouTube videos about them. And I encourage you to do something different. And Expedition 33 is that game that has encouraged me and inspired me to take gaming, I guess, more serious, to want to try to game more. And remembering how much of a good game is such a great stress reliever for me. The opportunity to discover something new beneath that resistance that I had to play JRPGs, to invest into a 50, 60-hour game, because I decided to do that with Expedition 33, I found a wonderful world of gaming experience that I almost missed completely as a gamer. So I'm thankful to Sandfall Interactive for creating such an incredible experience with 30 or so people, mind you. I'm thankful to my friend like Brandon, who kept trying to get me to play all these other games or JRPGs when I had no idea how to appreciate them. And I'm thankful for Clair Obscure Expedition 33 for being the perfect gateway into a genre that I previously avoided and helping me reignite my love for gaming. My vision for my channel and gaming in general for this year, for 2025, has changed largely in due part because of this game. I got tired of Pokemon TCG. Like I said, I'm not going to delete the videos on my YouTube channel, but you can check them out. I stopped posting for like a month and a half, 2 months, and I started playing Clair Obscure, right? So if you want to follow along on my journey on playing games and actually living up to my YouTube name, Retro Dex, right? Retro RPG Dex, make sure that you give me a follow, because I really think I'm going to be posting more videos like this because I love it and I can see myself doing it. With that being said, guys, this is Dexter with Retro Dex signing out.